Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on the program today, news and notes from Texans practice today, and a player emerges as a possible secret weapon on this Texans offense. I'll tell you why that might be the case in today's program. But let's start with the injury front for your Houston Texans. These guys have still yet to practice in training camp. Tank Dell, obviously, probably will not play this year. But also Dameon Pierce, Trent Brown, Joe Mixon, Kurt Heinisch, DeMeco Autry, Derek Barnett, Foley Fatukasi, Jimmy Ward, and UDFA Elijah Huzzie. But the injury news of today, and it is not good news, and it's pretty sad. Texans 7th-round pick Keontae Hamilton, defensive tackle out of Rutgers, was carted off the field today. The team kind of practice halted after this injury, everybody kneeling around him, and he was eventually carted off the practice field. Tough to see, especially his first year in the NFL, trying to make a name for himself, trying to make this roster, and this isn't going to help the young man. Might, end up on the, IR, Texans PUP list and be a stash, kind of like Texans offensive guard Darius Henderson was this past season. But prayers up to Keontae Hamilton. Hopefully a speedy recovery. If you want to wish the rookie a speedy recovery as well, go down and spam his jersey number 58 below. I know Texans players, people in the organization watch my videos, and if he happens to stumble across this one, I want him to see that Texans fans have his back. So if you could, take 2 seconds, go down, type that 58 for Keontae down in the comments section. Now, let's get into practice, the news and notes from today's show, and possibly the reason why you clicked into today's video. Who is this secret weapon that Jeremy Chuggs is talking about? Well, his name is Jakob Johnson. He could be a secret weapon for this Texans offense. Not a flashy name, not a name that's going to catch a lot of headlines. But Jakob Johnson sneakily has been getting work with the tight end room. He's a fullback, was actually, you're looking at connections with this team, played for the New England Patriots while Nick Caley, Cole Popovich were on staff. Jakob Johnson could end up being the fullback for this Texans team. And with the Texans' emphasis on wanting to get the run game going, I remember, all real Texans fans remember, if you were watching back in the Arian Foster days, back in the days before that, you know who the Texans had who really catapulted our run game, I feel like? Vontae Leach. And I'm not saying Jakob Johnson is anything near a Vontae Leach, but we've kind of seen the NFL world go away from the fullbacks. Let's bring them back. Let's bring back those bulldozers in front of the running back. Jakob Johnson might be that guy for this Texans offense, especially if he's getting work with the tight end room. If he can be a tight end fullback kind of flex option for this team, that his chances of making this Texans 53-man roster going up exponentially. Could be a secret weapon for Nick Caley in this Texans offense. Another news and note from this Texans practice on the offensive side, the same offensive line 2 days in a row. And, I'm never wrong. I'm just early. I'm just kidding. But at the same time, I told y'all at the beginning of the offseason, this was more than likely going to be the Texans offensive line. And what do you know? This was the Texans starting offensive line for the past 2 days. Cam Robinson, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Titus Howard, and Ariante Ursery at right tackle. Friends episode, the one where Chuggs was right. But the one part that I might have been wrong is that Jarrett Patterson and Jake Andrews have been rotating those, center snaps with the first team. It's been Patterson and then Andrews and Patterson. So that might be the flux of maybe Patterson starts, maybe Andrews starts. But I think the guards are solidified with Laken Tomlinson and Titus Howard. The tackles, not saying they're solidified, but I think the two best tackles on this team are Cam Robinson and Ariante Ursery. He's definitely had to step up above Blake Fisher so far during training camp in this offseason. So I wouldn't be surprised week 1 up against the LA Rams. These are the 5 guys that step on the field for your Houston Texans. And that's been the biggest issue with the Texans is the offensive line. Cal and Hannah McNair straight up said, what's something you want to see from this offense? And they said, we want to see C.J. Stroud upright this year. We don't want to see him getting hit. And that starts with the 5 guys up front. So let me know down in the comment section, how confident are you in the new Texans offensive line? Only one starter If this is going to be the unit going into this year, only one starter that started week 1 last year is going to be starting week 1 this year. That's Titus Howard, and he won't even be starting at the same position. So let me know down in the comment section. Scale 1, no confidence. 10, ton of confidence in this new offensive line. Another note from practice today, Jawhar Jordan getting a lot of run and looking pretty good. Obviously, Joe Mixon not practicing, still dealing with that foot injury. But that leads to a couple other guys getting more reps. And the 6th-round pick from last year out of Louisville, Jawhar Jordan, has been making the most of it. I've talked to a couple guys at camp. They're saying he looks pretty good. Now, you do have to temper expectations. He's running with a lot with the 2s, with the 3s. But from what I've been hearing, he's been looking pretty good. And Jawhar Jordan might not make this Texans 53-man roster. But for him to do so, he needs to get something in this special teams game. He has to be either a kick returner, punt returner, which, funny enough, was one of his specialties while he was playing college football at Louisville. He was an electric kick returner. So maybe he ends up being that kick returner. You got to look out for that position battle, a sneaky one between him and Braxton Berrios on who could be this Texans kick return man this season. Let's go to another note from practice today. The Texans airing it out. Probably more than any other practice so far. The Texans quarterbacks were going deep with the football. This coming in from Will Kunkel. The Texans offense is throwing the ball down the field today. Kalen Bullock had a nice PBU versus Nico Collins on about a 45-yard ball. Kamari Lasser was in coverage there. And it didn't stop there. There was multiple deep shots done by this Texans offense today. They wanted definitely an emphasis on throwing the ball down the field. Now, that wasn't all, roses and rainbows with that, though. Because obviously a PBU there. And in the middle of drills today, Texans quarterback said, hey, timeout, let's take a break. I don't know, probably a good sign if they're not playing well that they kind of reined him in. Quarterback coach Stroud Davis said, hey, let's take a second, talk this over. This coming from Jonathan Alexander. Team drills are on pause. CJ Stroud and Stroud Johnson having what looked like a conversation among all the quarterbacks. I assume they weren't exactly happy with how that period of team drills went after yesterday's practice. And if you look at the picture from Jonathan Alexander on Twitter, funny enough, you see Stroud Johnson, quarterback coach. You also see another guy, Jerry Shaplinski, in that photo, somebody who was brought over to be, an assistant on the offense, somebody who was with the Rams with Nick Caley, came over to the Houston Texans. Very interesting to see his insight and how he kind of helps out with CJ Stroud in this Texans offense. Another note from practice on the offensive side, Dalton Schultz looking pretty good. And I'll be the first one to say I've been not a hater. I would say I've been a doubter of Dalton Schultz being the tight end 1 for this Texans offense. I've kind of hyped up Cade Stover. I've hyped up Brevin Jordan a lot this offseason. But if Dalton Schultz ends up being the tight end 1 and plays well, that's great. I hope Dalton Schultz proves me wrong. I hope he proves everybody wrong. Because if you look at every, Texans trade target, Texans cut candidate, a lot of people had Dalton Schultz's name on both of those lists. And I hope he does go out there and prove everybody wrong and has a bounce-back season after maybe one of his, lesser years in the NFL. Dalton Schultz, though, looking good at practice today. Now, coming up, I have some notes on the defensive side of the football. More exciting side of the football for your Houston Texans at this very moment. But before we get into that, some great deals with our friends over at Fanatics. Do you need a Texans hat? Well, they got you covered. Every single style, every single kind of hat that you would want, they got over at Fanatics. All you got to do, go to chatsports.com/Texans hats. That link will be in the comment section and description of today's video. They have the secondary logo. They have the new T hat logo, which I actually didn't get a photo of. I'll get one for the next one. But if you want that one, if you want any of these hats, they even have a beach hat like this, go to chatsports.com/Texans hats. Moose is laughing at me in the background, but his lazy ass didn't do it either. So we're all lazy here at Chat Sports, I guess. All these hats are available at Fanatics. The link in the comment section and description of today's video. I'll get y'all a photo of it later on. It's the new Texans logo. It's kind of like the H1. It's the T. That's on me. That's on me, guys. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the football. DJ Bieniemy, Texans beat reporter for ESPN, had this to say on the Texans defense. Today, the Texans defense is dominating the Texans offense. What's new? The Texans defense has looked fantastic. After cornerback Tremon Smith broke a pass from Davis Mills down the field, another deep ball, like I was saying, they were airing it out today. CJ Gardner-Johnson shouted, "We on they," which on Twitter. Maybe because he works for ESPN with Disney. Just put the S's. We on they ass and said it was belt to ass while swinging an imaginary belt like this. We all know what you were saying. It's $2. Like, it's X. I don't know. But either way, Texans defense obviously turned it up once again. After 2 days where more evenly matched, Texans defense kind of took a hold of today's practice. First up, as he mentioned, Tremon Smith making some plays out there. And he was somebody who, whenever the Texans signed him in NFL free agency this offseason, it was lauded as, oh, yeah, a special teams guy. He's going to be somebody that will help out in the special teams with Frank Ross. Could he contribute more than just on special teams? After the Texans signed Ronald Darby this offseason, he ended up retiring. They're looking for some guys to step up. Could Tremon Smith be one of those guys that steps up for this Texans defense and is more of just a special teamer on this Texans roster? Another note on the defensive side, Texans rookie Jaylen Reed gets his second interception of camp. Let's do it. 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 Okay, yeah, that's Jaylen Reed. If you don't remember what I'm talking about, that's what that was his actual reaction whenever the Texans drafted him and Nick Caserio called him up. Obviously, a fiery, feisty individual, and he's looking good throughout training camp so far. Another training camp INT. I know it's like 7-on-7, 11-on-11. We don't count it as much, but still, good signs from the rookie, a sixth-rounder out of Penn State. Now you got me coughing. Next up, another note from practice on the defensive side, CJ Gardner-Johnson energizing this defense. I showed you earlier, Bieniemy, he tweeted out, we own they, a $sign, but he's doing more than that. He's actually helping kind of lift the spirits up, and with the amount of young guys this Texans team has, the amount of young talent this team has, it's good to see a veteran that's been there before, done that, coming in and kind of re-energizing everybody and kind of reinforcing, hey, we are that unit. We are that good of a team. This is what he had to say after practice today. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. CJ Gardner-Johnson said that about the Texans today. And obviously, it's the team he's playing for. He's going to say something along those lines. But with a guy who's been to 2 Super Bowls before, it makes you feel good that he's like, you know what? This team is as good as those teams. We can get there if we put our heads on straight and really put our heads down and look forward and keep on trucking. Good news from CJ Gardner-Johnson in the fact that he thinks that this team is on the right track, even with the offense struggling a little bit as of late. Another note from today's practice, and we haven't really talked much about Derek Stingley so far, probably because, people don't want to throw his way. But just a reminder, Stingley is still amazing. Stingley is still insanely good. The best cornerback in the league, bar none. It's him, Pat Surtain. 1A, 1B. You can put it however you want, mix and match. It's those two, massive tier break, and then Sauce Gardner and a couple other guys. Maybe not even Sauce Gardner at number 3. But Stingley's the best in the league. He is fantastic, still making plays out there, still looking great. I haven't talked about him as much, but that's kind of a good thing. When you're not talking about a quarterback, that means they're probably not having a lot of plays going their way. That's a good thing at the cornerback position. And lastly, a note from practice, the D-line was feasting. The D-line absolutely was working the offensive line today. We talked about how the past couple of days the O-line looked a little bit better. Cam Robinson, Ariante Urstry, the bookends looked pretty good. The D-line definitely got the betterment of the O-line in today's practice. Will Anderson Jr. looking fantastic as always. Daniil Hunter as well, along with the rest of the guys on this front. Derek Barnett obviously not practicing, but Solomon Byrd in his stance looking really good while he's out. The D-line was working the offensive line today, which, no surprise. I think the Texans might have a top 5 D-line and a top 5 secondary in the NFL this year. Maybe one of the best defenses in the entire league. Now, that's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, my DMs are always open at Jeremy Chugs. And if you made it to the end of today's show, hit that subscribe button. We're over 30,000 strong here at Texans Today. We're not only the #1 Texans show on YouTube, we're the #1 Texans community on YouTube because they're real ones like you. So if you joined here, if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that sub button. It's 100% free. You did make it to the end of the video and you are subbed. Drop those H's down in the comment section so I know who the real ones are.